Hello and welcome, followers. We are at round 8 Ibarra for the Automobilista Australia Touring Car Championship. Qualifying's just ticked over. A little bit smaller grid this week. Obviously had a slight change in the times. Obviously starting about an hour earlier due to obviously didn't want to finish so late and to give obviously admin team a bit of extra flexibility in case server goes down and the like. But we have just ticked over to the qualifying session. In the previous session, we had Roadhog fastest on a 1 minute 28. Oh no, sorry, 1 minute 29.8. With Scott Morrill second fastest on a 29.9. And we did have Reese Gardner tick below that on a 1 minute 30.0. But I believe he set that lap time with no wait. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. And in the commentary box, and not racing this evening, or at least for one of the races anyway, we have got Mr. Scruff, El Chief, El Capitan himself.
I like that you're trying to figure out my alias for the evening.
It could be, yes, that's it. It could be many. So we'll
bring out Southern Lewis. I see you've just opened your can.
Certainly have. It could be Irish Lewis. I mean, it is Jamison, so.
Don't get me started already. No, interesting being in the commentary booth for qualifying and race 1 in this series. I don't believe I've actually done it yet. I have after crashing out in race 2 a few times, but otherwise I think this is a first.
Certainly for this series, obviously, you've joined us for a couple of the rounds in the Rookie Cup. And we were joined by some random fancy British fellow that we hope gets his teeth kicked in.
Absolute legend, mate. Not quite as legendary as the Farcanal Racing Paisley Edition livery I'm currently watching.
Well, I'm currently looking at Scott Morrill, who is 5/10 up on Foley's time. He did almost bin it at turn 2. The very fast turn 2. And for those that are obviously followers of the Automobilista Australia, obviously Monday night series in particular, we did have a Rookie Cup round here, not this season, but the previous season where we ended up with a car
flying into the freaking crowd.
Yep, and that was at, I believe, turn 2, or between turns 1 and 2. There's Scott Morrill reports his that. We've got Roadhog has just gone P1, and he's just up on his own time, so. That said, Foley's 3/10 up on, I believe, on Roadhog currently. So it's looking the goods at the moment, despite his 120 kilos of ballast.
He was quite happy. I believe it was last round. He had a reduced weight ballast, but the success he's found in this series has continued genuinely, regardless of the weight. He might have a dodgy track here and there, but he has been doing well, especially in the second races. The first races he's been struggling with a bit more, but somehow coming through the field seems to be a really big strength for Foley.
Yeah, obviously, racecraft a big thing, and we've had Mike Coulston surprise packet at the moment. He's jumped up to P1 for Roadhog Racing, so he's done a good job here. And now we've got Topher has gone P1, a 121.1. That is a very, very quick lap time, and he's immediately gone straight back to the pits. I think that might be our pole time already. I don't see any of the guys with weight coming too close to that. So unless someone else without weight can match it, I reckon we've got our pole time already.
Yeah, that's the fastest time I believe we've actually had in the server. The second fastest set by some idiot we won't talk about during practice, who's no longer there. And Ozrob with a 29.8. But Termo has just gone third, apparently. I just saw it pop up on my time.
Ross has jumped up. So Ross has done a 1 minute 29.7.
They're going so quickly, we cannot keep up in the commentary booth.
That's it. And obviously Termo, this is, I believe his first race was it last week in the Rookie Cup, or was it in the last touring car race? I can't remember. But
yeah, I think he was racing last week.
Yeah, in the rookies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do, yes,
Not
you do
too
recognise that
much
name.
of a not too much of a swap up from the minis, both being front wheel drive, but these things are still quite significantly different to drive, but probably the closest thing to the minis.
Out of all the other series we run, yep, that would certainly be the case. Obviously, these.
Oh, the LMP2 is not far off,
Well,
except in every conceivable way.
except in aerodynamic performance, weight, obviously where the power goes,
The amount of power that goes there.
the amount of power that goes,
They look similar.
the fact that most of them are open cockpit. But aside from that, they're the exact same.
The four wheels.
So, looks like we've got another newcomer for tonight anyway. Ozrob is currently on an okay lap at the moment.
Yeah, he was quickest through practice, but it seems the 45 kilo weight penalty has hampered him a little bit. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it does make a huge difference in these cars.
It does make a bit of a difference, especially surprisingly, obviously I keep saying it every week, but surprisingly with the straight line speed, it does affect it quite a bit, and obviously with that big front stretch, it can obviously cost a little bit of kilometres down the straight, and that's going to cost you a little bit of time down here. So he's currently P7.
Will find some gains with the weight, but there's with the size of the, let's call it a straight, even though it has a couple kinks in it, but with the size of it, you just lose too much going down there for the benefits you do get from the weight to actually really give you any advantage.
Well, you can see that as we're following it right now, he's within a tenth of a second, within half a tenth even of his own PB, but he's 4 tenths down on Topher, so that'll all be top speed. That's obviously Topher being a Pro-Am driver, he does not have to worry about. So he doesn't. And same with obviously Brendan Ross, his personal, well, on his last lap anyways, 21.0, and you can see all the people with weight, they're struggling to get anywhere near that number.
Yeah, the advantage the guys with weight have, obviously, it is a success ballast and done by class, which just means their racecraft is generally better than those who don't get the same amount of weight or any weight at all, and that's how they generally do come through the field.
Yep, that's it. Obviously this series was brought about obviously for the lower class drivers to obviously race amongst themselves and get a bit of obviously airtime, and obviously
to chew up another Monday night for yourself.
That's it, because who needs to do anything?
Sim racing is life. That should be a hashtag. If you're on Twitter, we're not, so don't bother hashtagging it.
But if you're on Facebook, just obviously in the comments on the
if you
on
use
the page,
hashtag on Facebook, just don't bother.
Just hashtag at Matt Williams and just go nuts with it, guys. Just go nuts, tag him in everything. So we're going to follow Topher. We're going to ride on board with a lap on the bonnet cam and follow a lap with Topher and see how he handles this track. Obviously currently fastest. He goes down 2 gears for the second turn. I found just going down 1 gear and keeping your foot in it was the fastest way to go, but still 21.5. He's 5 tenths slower than Brendan Ross in that first sector, so there's still quite a significant amount of time in that for Topher. So he must have an absolutely mega middle and final sector to be 5.5 tenths up, despite being slower in the first sector.
One thing we are also seeing is the guys at the top are largely competitors in the Rookies Cup and have been in the first season as well, so they do have a bit more experience with this track, having already raced twice in that series.
Yep, that's it. Obviously season 1 in the Lancers, and obviously a month or so ago in the Minis. Minis also being front wheel drive would be a bit of a benefit around here too. So it's only
coming here in a sort of similar type of car, but these ones are a lot more stable, I find personally. It will give them a fair bit of an advantage early on here in qualifying.
So it's only a tenth or less than a tenth off his own personal best there, so still a pretty good lap from Topher. We'll ride on board again. So obviously this turn 1 here is flat, and then personally for me I'll just flick down a gear but stay flat. He lifts off a little bit and only down 1 gear this time. Coming into turns 2 and 3, he's up by 1/10, still 4/10 off Brendan Ross. A little bit sideways there, could have carried it a bit wider and tucked it in and got on the throttle earlier, but still not too bad.
Brenton Foley, sorry to interrupt you, he was just on a very good middle sector, but towards the end of it he just loses that time due to the weight.
There is a couple of quick corners where you can lose it, and that weight would push him wide, so not too
As we got Topher on another hot lap here, he's just set a 21.4 for the first sector.
That's it, we are riding on board with him, and he's coming up to the second split. It's been a fairly tidy middle sector so far. This is one of the trickier turns on the track. You don't want to run too wide there in the double left.
Yeah, one of the advantages of these cars, and in fact the Mini for these guys, is that they are more unstable. So it sort of teaches you to be a little bit more gentle with them, which is good in other series, and he's still up.
He's up again, but he's made a mistake through probably the most difficult part of the track, which is that final chicane and final turn. So made a mistake and ran wide there and lost all that time he gained.
Fastest middle sector of the session though, and still doing a 29.6, which would still be good enough for second place again. Well, it'd still be good enough for pole. He's a long way ahead of his opposition here.
He was fairly quick, I believe, in one of the Rookie Cup seasons here. He's up again.
So we have Scott Murrell on a hot lap at the moment. He's done can't find his name on the timing, 21.5 through the first sector and lost it in the middle sector.
Well, he's currently down in 9th place, and we've also got Foley a fair way down the field. So he's just moved up to 7th. He was a little bit further down.
Like I said earlier,
and Murrell up to P2, so he was on a decent lap there, but he's gone straight back to the pits.
Foley, it might not actually be bad for him qualifying so far down. As I said earlier, he does do well coming through the field, so definitely not one to count out at this stage, as we have Topher up again through the first sector,
and we've got Foley
River Whisper also in a hot sector.
And we've got Foley is up currently in sector 1. So
guys, do not believe in giving us a moment to take a breath.
They certainly do not, as we've found out in the Rookie Cup, and obviously here in the Touring Car Series.
Topher's dropped off through the middle sector, but River Whisper still up through the second sector, coming through the last corner now. Although I am using live races, so I'm a few seconds behind.
He did cross the line and didn't improve, so he must have made a mistake in the final sector. Topher's gone back to the pit, so we will follow.
We've got Foley up again too.
What can Foley do in the middle sector now? It's just
21.4, just about on par through the first sector.
Middle sector, he's up 5/10 on his own time, but still 3.9 tenths down. Look fairly tidy through that chicane. Tucks it in nicely in the final turn, so this will move him up, I would say, a few positions. 5/10 will find him
up to third.
I was just about to say that'll move him up to P3, and very good.
He drives for my teams, and I own him, so therefore I'm gonna handle the Foley commentary tonight.
Fair enough. As we see, Mitch is off into the boonies. Don't want to hit any of those trees, Lime, because you will rip your car.
Are they real here?
They are real. They are solid objects. As you see, Wazrob into the barrier there.
Foley's not had a good run through the Farkenau Racing corner either. He's gone back to the pits. That's his session done.
So that is qualifying then, I believe. No, Roadhog is on a lap.
Yeah, River Whisper is just finishing off a lap. He's not on a good one. It looks like he's given that up.
So Roadhog, this lap does count. So hopefully the session doesn't tick over. Hopefully he hasn't left it too late. But we will follow him and we'll see how he goes. He's 2 tenths down in his own first sector split. So not the greatest of start.
Our qualifying sessions are set so that it lets people finish their hot laps. So if you start with 1 second left on a 20-minute lap, it's going to keep going until you finish. That's
good to know. So what can Roadhog do? Obviously the other championship protagonist.
Good first sector. 21.8, not on pole time, but definitely nothing to shake a stick at.
He can go faster. Obviously, he was a few tenths down in his own personal best, but obviously he'll be hoping to find a bit of time in this middle sector here. He's down in 11th at the moment. So not the greatest qualifying session from him, but we do see him be also very consistent in the race. He's 7 tenths down in the middle sector, so Barring,
Could still improve though.
barring some miracle final sector, I don't believe he's going to improve that lap time.
Current, if he holds this pace, he could move up to 7th.
And well, he found 4/10 on his own personal best there, and if he found 4/10, he would have been, yes, he would have been elevated to 7th place, but obviously his first 2 sectors did cost him. Alright, so we'll just run through the order before we take a short break for the warm-up. We have Topher on pole position with a scintillating 1 minute 29.1. We've got Scott Worrell in P2. Brenton Foley, fantastic effort from him with his 120 kilos. He starts P3. We've got Brendan Ross in P4. Newcomer Termo in P5. He did a good job. And Reese Gardner P6 with obviously 135 kilos on board. So again, a very good effort. Ozrob P7. Lime Mitch P8. I believe this is his second race. Obviously his first race being last night in the supercars at Sandown. Mike Coulston, he led early on, but obviously couldn't improve, and he is P9. Gary Neville, P10. Roadhog, a bit disappointing, and that's going to hurt his championship chances. He's P11. River Whisper, this is his, I believe he did the rookies last week, and his first round was the touring cars at the previous round at Taruma. He starts P12. Brian Walsh, P13, and Leonard Miles, P14. But we'll take a short break as we go through the drivers' briefing with the drivers, but we shall be back. Hello and welcome back. Obviously, we still have 2.5 minutes left in the warm-up, but we'll just talk briefly about the current championship situation. So we'll just bring it up here. Obviously, it's not the most up-to-date currently. Obviously, Stairs has not had time to update the final standings after Roadhog's penalty, where he was demoted 2 positions in race 2 at Taruma. But as you can see on your screen, obviously before the penalty was applied, the gap dropped dramatically down to 2 points between Foley and Roadhog. Unfortunately, Dwayne Davies, he's dropped off a bit with obviously his back playing all kinds of issues, and obviously he missed the last round and had a DNF at Campo Grande, which has killed off his chances of the championship. So it's down to obviously Roadhog and Foley, and Foley's been consistent every round, but that DNF, well, he's had 3 DNFs. They've sort of killed him quite a bit, Mr. Scruff.
Yeah, I'm tuned out for a second looking at the points. But just going back to Dwayne, unless you were already talking about him, and to continue on with that,
Well,
he's had the back issues, which is pretty much where the results drop down into the 12th and 9th place that you can see in the middle there. Then last round missed that with technical issues. I believe his computer decided to be all Microsoft and stopped working. And out tonight with the flu, so promising championship has been hampered by a lot of things that really are just out of his control.
is rather unfortunate. Obviously, this being his strongest series, obviously taking home a win, a couple of second places and a third. So a bit frustrating for him, no doubt. But I think
whatever you were talking about, we can get back to that now.
Well, it's just more so the gap, obviously, between Foley and Roadhog, obviously closing significantly after Foley's previous DNF.
Yes.
So, I believe the gap shown on your screen is 2 points, but with a demotion of 2 positions to Roadhog, that will jump out to 8 points. So, obviously, still.
There's 6 races to go. It's definitely anyone's championship from here. You'd say, going on recent form, excluding that DNF from Foley, that they have been on fairly equal form. Foley with the more consistent results pretty much since Salvador.
Despite the added weight to Foley, he has obviously continued to have obviously very, very strong results. While Roadhog, when he's had added weight, his results have dropped off a little bit. So he'll be hoping to turn that form around, as obviously the warm-up has now ticked over, and we're in the race session, but still got about a minute or so until the safety car gets underway. So obviously Roadhog, he'll be hoping to turn the tide a little bit. Obviously, he started off his first round it was 14th and 4th, and then obviously he took the 2 wins at Curitiba, and was very consistent from then on. But his results certainly haven't been quite as strong of late.
Yeah, just 1 win and 3 podiums since Curitiba. But his still is consistently up around that 5th, 6th place going through when he has had a poor round. And the advantage that those two have is the 2 guys behind them. One has dropped out of the series and the other has had his issues. So not much pressure from behind, and they can just focus on finishing ahead of each other.
That's it. So you're just about to get underway. The safety car has taken off, and Topher has begun the formation lap. Obviously, got a little bit of a smaller grid here, only 15 cars. Aussie has joined us in the warm-up, so it's good to see another car making it onto the grid. So we'll just talk us through it. I'll go through the first 7, and you can go through the final 8 Scruff. So obviously, we've got Topher on pole position. Magnificent lap. He was about 4-5 tenths clear of Scott Morrill in P2. Brendan Ross continuing his very fine form. He's been in great form in all the series of late, and that's continued with fantastic P3. Got newcomer Turbo in his multicoloured Castrol Racing Cruise in P4. Good to see another custom livery on the grid. And got Southpaw racer, Reese Gardner, P5, doing a good job with his 135. Got Osrob in P6, and I believe we're missing Brenton Foley. What's
Yes, he's just got a message from him. He's been disconnected. He's had the Lewis wedding treatment.
So the question is, do we go back and restart it, or?
Well, my general standpoint on that is no, but it would be consistent with the series. However, he is my teammate, so I'm going to leave that one up to you.
We've had Cracker also disconnect. So.
Cracker wasn't here earlier. I believe his issue was he just jumped in at the last minute and didn't have the update.
Yes, so just hold on 1 second.
I love you too, David Keane. Sorry, live stream. We do obviously apologise for this delay. The technical issues are somewhat out of our hands. I normally try to avoid it, but with these series, which are a bit more for just a bit of a laugh and something to do on a Monday night, although we do wind up taking them more seriously than we start off. So I know myself and Foley, we both just jumped in as a bit of a time filler because we couldn't be bothered doing practice after the Sunday night races.
Yes. See, a few of these guys take this series. Oh, they enjoy this series a bit more than a couple of the other series they drive. So they put a little bit more effort into this one. And so obviously, with a couple, obviously Cracker will want to try and get back in. He'll need to obviously update his game. And we see Foley, the championship leader, obviously, and also starting in P3. Obviously, don't know what happened there. Sometimes the good old Automobilista likes to just troll people, and obviously that's happened to Brenton Foley. So we'll be.
Myself and Dwayne Davies have probably had the most interesting disconnections, given that we've only ever been disconnected from servers that we are hosting.
It's quite interesting.
But the server stays up, but we can't get back into them.
Yes, the Automobilista does like to throw up some of these random events, unfortunately, and it seems to happen on Mondays more than it does in other series for whatever reason. But
that's because they know you're more forgiving than I.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Although that said, the last Super Series round at Oran Park seemed to be a bit of a clusterfuck, to be honest.
That was an interesting one. I got the message up on my screen asking to restart, and I was saying, no, that's Lewis's habit, and it went to the grid, and I thought, well, I'm not missing the race for that, and then we wound up letting the issue solve itself.
Yeah, so obviously for those that are wondering, on Thursday nights, or for the Thursday night and Sunday night series, you're probably not going to get a restart, but obviously for Rookie Cup and for obviously the AMS Oz Touring Car Championship, when there are disconnects, obviously we will obviously try and restart it and get it going for everybody. Obviously being more light-hearted series, so we do hope Foley will hurry up, and there he is.
Just jumped in. Yeah, one of the reasons I especially won't do it these days is I haven't in the past, and it would be a little bit unfair to start doing it now, halfway through some series and at the start of others, so just more of a even thingo. My vocabulary just stopped working. Loading file not found.
There you go. But yeah, I do understand that. Obviously, I have been in other series where it's just you do not restart it at all, because obviously if you do have a restart for one person, then it gets frustrating that other people get.
Yeah, I've sort of looked at it from the start as, in a real race, if your car breaks down on the grid, then you're probably not going to be in the race, and in sim racing, it's more if your computer or your internet breaks down, then you're probably not going to be racing.
Yeah, so
it's the unpleasant realism. That's what I bring to the group.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing that sim racing obviously doesn't really have, is obviously the random failures that do happen in.
Yeah,
obviously,
you're not gonna burn a clutch out on the formation lap or anything.
Yeah, you're not going to have a gearbox or earth failure if you're driving a Formula 1 car. It doesn't happen. Obviously, the only reason you do have a DNF is if you crash or if you, obviously, you rev the engine too hard or something along the lines of that. So, I guess it is one of those, obviously, random elements that does come along. Obviously, internet connection is another one that some here are mightily fond of.
No, that's not the word that you say off air.
But hopefully the grid isn't too messed up.
Yeah, it was Foley in third
P3,
place.
yes. So,
Yep. Everyone behind there appears to still be in the same position. It's just a question of whether or not it gives Foley his spot back.
well, it
I
could.
believe it should.
As we went back to warm up, it shouldn't cause an issue. But this is Automobilista, and
The race
anything can happen.
hadn't actually started, so it should be fine. But saying we have to use the word should when talking about Automobilista.
Yes, that's it. So hopefully it puts him back in the right position. We are about to get underway. Here we go. Off to the next session, and Foley's been moved up to P3. So that looks... The grid is looking good, and we are about to get back underway for race 1. And obviously this is another reason why it is good to start earlier when these things happen. We are not rushing around and hoping we finish before 12 o'clock. Now, we certainly will be finished before 12 o'clock.
Oh, you've gone and done it now. Never say that.
I can say definitely that we will be finishing before 12 o'clock.
Oh, no.
Put it down now. Put a mortgage on it.
I'll just close the server.
Put Scruff's mortgage on it.
I don't have one, so go for it.
Put everything
Wealthy man.
inside his alcoholic inside his fridge on it.
Bottle of whiskey on top of the fridge.
Including elements that are on top of the fridge and cupboard.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Well, it's already burning, so... Well, some think it's already burning, so that's not too much of an issue. So, we are underway. The formation lap has just begun, and we'll go through the grid once again. I'll go through the top 7, and you can take us away from P8 onwards, Scuff. So, we've got Topher, pole position, fantastic lap. You see, I'll say it once again. We've got Scott Murrell, P2, good, solid job from him. Bretton Foley, fantastic effort with his 120 kilos of ballast on board. He starts P3 for Farkenel Racing. Brendan Ross continuing his excellent form. He starts in P4 for 444 Racing. Termo, great effort from him. Obviously, one of his first races with us. He starts P5 for Castrol Racing. Southpaw Racer / Reese Gardner. He starts P6. His vocal cords will be stuffed, but hopefully his arm is good to go. Got Ozrob P7, and now you can lead us away through the rest of the grid, Scruff.
On 8th place we have Lime Mitch. Good qualifying for his first race in the series. He's followed in 9th by Mike Coulson of, I was going to try and pronounce it, Wadi Dog Racing. I'll just gloss over that.
That's good enough.
10th place is Gary Neville racing for the Loose Simsport Academy team. 11th is Roadhog. Not a great qualifying for him. He'll be looking to make up some positions early. River Whisper in 12th place with one of the greatest team names of all time, Candyman Racing. Brian Walsh in 13th. He's followed by Glenn Miles, the other Loose Simsport Academy driver. And in 15th is Big Dog.
Big Dog!
Big Dog! The pressure of doing the grid got to me. Oh, and in 16th we have Aussie. I forgot about Aussie.
Yep, obviously late comer there. So we're coming up to obviously the final chicane and final turn.
Oh shit, it's a rolling start.
It is a rolling start.
I'm not out there, it's just strange.
So they're going out of the final turn. Drivers are reminded obviously to maintain 100 kilometers per hour until the start finish line. And then we are away and racing. So there it is, across the start finish line. Topher is away. The field is away for round 9, race 1.
Good initial getaway for Brenton Foley in third place. He's managed to keep ahead of Brendan Ross.
So we're coming up to the infamous turn 2. And, first they've got a little bit of a gap over Foley. The field is a little bit spread out as we see one of the loose sport cars with Miles in the back getting a bit sideways. Now through turn 3.
Good clean start so far.
I haven't seen any incidents yet, which is always a good. Normally we do see 1 or 2 on the first lap, but it's been pretty clean so far.
Definitely better than the last race in the series.
Certainly, that was a bit of a mess in race 2 out at Taruma. Topher leading away. He's got a little bit of a gap over Morrill, but Foley has come back into the fray a little bit there. So he's closed that gap down a little bit since obviously turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, it looks like Foley was just more concentrating on the start, making sure he didn't lose any positions. All he needs to do is Roadhog down in 10th place. Looks like he's made up a position.
And a couple of drivers across the grass at that final chicane, but no one has binned it at the chicane. We've got Aussies well down the field, and Scott Morrill's got a good run out of the final turn.
Yeah, he'll be cursing that weight disadvantage though.
He had to lift off as we've got Ross there having a look at Foley into turn 1. Ross not having any weight and Foley having 120 kilos. It's difficult through 1 and 2 to overtake cleanly without sending one person into the stands and the other off into the boonies. So he thinks better of it.
A bit of a lock-up, big lock-up there from Morrill.
Very easy to do there. You're on the brake. You have to be on the brakes for quite a bit through that corner to slow it down.
Yeah, these cars...
Oh, and again.
Straight line too. Yeah, I was going to say, these cars are especially bad when you have to put any brake pressure on while turning, but happening for him there, braking in a straight line too, so maybe just a little bit too much brake pressure. Or
perhaps the brake bites a little bit too far at the front. But that's closed the front 4 up, well, front 5 up, particularly the front 5. Obviously these guys are all within a second of each other, and then behind them we've got Reece Gardner. P5, he's got Lime Mitch, who's had a good start. He's up 2 spots, and he's looking right at the back of Reece Gardner. Termo has dropped 2 spots. So we go down through the field. Gary Neville, he's up to 9th, and River Whisper, he's up 2 spots for the Candyman Racing. And got go Miles and
Morrill wide in the final corner. Sorry.
And Miles had a big accident. He got nudged into the wall by Coulston, and he's gone around there. So we'll just have a look at that replay. So Miles didn't give. Well, Coulston was side by side, as you see, and wasn't left much space. Miles didn't see him in his mirrors and got a couple taps there. Coulston couldn't do much about it, and well, that's wrecked Miles' car as he enters the pits. But yes,
it's similar to an incident we saw last night in the Sandown 250 between Will Devonish and Colin Warwick coming up to turn 6, when it looked like Will had room. Oh, he had to run, and Warwick defending, so Will went to the outside and Warwick started to move across, and Will deciding that he wasn't going to be put on the grass.
And Foley's he's gone around the outside. Foley went around the outside, and Ross was trying to go around the outside at what is it? That is turn 7.
Morrill didn't have a good run through the final corner at the end of the previous lap, and that brought Foley right up to the back of him.
Struggling a little bit, so he'll be hoping to get back into a groove, and that's given Topher a bit of a gap, but he hasn't won a race, I believe, in either the Rookie Cup or the Touring Car Series, so he'll be hoping to keep it clean from here on out.
Foley a little bit wide there, Morrill just closing up a little bit, but yeah, Foley, Topher hasn't, I don't believe he's had a win. He's been very close on quite a few occasions. It's usually his pit strategy that lets him down, and without the pit stops in this series, he'll be just trying to keep his head down and just keep his eyes out of the mirror, really, is the best bit of advice he could be given.
Well, he was 7/10 faster than Foley in that last lap, but Foley obviously had to pass Morrill, and Morrill has got Ross beside him. Ross going for the overtake and should get it done, and he pulls it up nicely, and Ross up to P3.
You can see Foley being
As we
very
see,
careful
as you see
around
Mitch
him,
off
so
in the background, he's off on the grass. Rejoins the track a bit dangerously there, but thankfully no one else around. And
you
now,
can see Foley is driving in his mirrors just a little bit more. I don't think he's really worried about being passed. He's more just worried about, are one of them going to hit me and ruin the race and cost me my championship lead? Which, well, we got someone
oh, but
off the
that's
back.
crap. That's Aussie, I believe. That is Aussie, I think. And we see, oh, is it not? Yeah, it is Aussie. Having a cut across the track. He's down in 15th. And we've got Coulston stopped. He's sounded like his engine was gone there for a second. So we'll just have a look at the replay.
I can't hear an engine.
No, he's got it going. So he had contact with Walsh. Walsh ended off into the boonies.
Mike Coulston is out of the race. He's just retired.
So yeah, that's rather unfortunate. He was looking all right in qualifying, but obviously that incident there put him out. Oh, we've got Big Dog and Aussie. Big Dog's just disappeared. The Big Dog has the Big gone right now, and
the Big gone. You crack me up. Oh, he's back. We got him.
That's good to hear.
He's gone again.
And Roadhog, he's currently struggling. He's in 12th at the moment, down a spot.
Big Dog out. Big Dog out. Sorry, Lewis. Big Dog, I'd say he's had a massive connection issue.
Nope.
And has been sent back to the pits.
Yeah, so we've got Toph has got a 1.6 second lead. He lost a little bit of time on that last lap to Foley, who did a 30.8 with Toph doing a 31.0. And I think, yeah, Foley now, he's got Ross all over the back of him, certainly looking the fastest of this front group at the moment. But that's allowed. Well, Gardner and Lime Mitch are now stuck behind Foley. So we've got a bit of a Foley train going, and so we've got second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, all within a second, as Foley runs a little bit wide, and they're going to be going side by side into the chicane. This is not the smartest driving.
I know I'm meant to be unbiased in the commentary box, but when your teammate is in a championship fight, that's a bit difficult. But in this situation, I think he either needs to break away from this pack or just let them go. Roadhog is down in 11th place and almost 30 seconds behind him.
Well, thankfully Ross was smart enough to lift off a little bit there, and that's given Foley a bit of a gap. The
last thing he wants to do though is wind up in the middle of this pack though.
Yeah, you either want to be in the front of it or you want to be behind it. You certainly don't want to be in the middle, because if you're slightly off your line, you're going to lose a couple spots or possibly have an accident like Morrell. He's off in the boonies.
Morrell is gone.
He is in the boonies.
That is an interesting racing
line. And it's rejoined.
That's not a good rejoin at all.
And Reese Gardner, I hope he's not wearing white undies, because they would now be brown. So he's going to need new undies and a new race suit after that one, because that was mighty close. So
we've got Brendan Ross right back on the back of Brenton Foley.
He's very close now.
Yeah, that gap had opened up to just a couple car lengths, but now he's right underneath that rear wing, just trying to find anywhere he can get the extra drive.
Just go back a little bit. Lime Mitch is all over the back of Gardner at the moment. So Gardner still probably, his heart rate's probably recovering from having a...
Oh, Ross threw on Foley. Ross threw on Foley.
Once again, we miss it on camera. Just go back and have a replay. So let's have a look. What's happened here?
I think he may have seen there was a gap opening up behind and realised that Ross was faster.
He's gone around the outside at turns 10 and 11. That is...
I think Foley just saw the gap opening up behind and realised that Ross was the faster driver at that point and thought it was better off to get behind him now while there was a big gap to fit into.
And we've got Turmo, fastest lap of the race, at 29.9. That would have put him a few spots higher up on the grid, so he's found a bit of a groove.
That would have been probably second row on the grid.
So he's now joined onto the back of that pack. He's right behind Scott Morrell. There's Murrell's all over the back of Gardner, who's lost position to Lime Mitch. So Topher has avoided all that, and he's got a 2.7 second lead over Ross. And
yeah, Topher from here, his main goal just has to...
See Ross
Ross is a long way off the track there.
Foley has a look. And then
Ross
runs
wide again.
and Foley's going to take that
side.
position. He's got it. He's got the position. So it'll be very
Probably
frustrating.
the last situation he wants to be in.
Oh, as you see, Topher, he's run a bit on the grass here. Doesn't want to be doing that. He's just got to keep it nice and smooth from here on out. Probably nurse the tyres. If he just takes it easy and nurse the tyres, he'll be right.
Got enough lead that he can just save those tyres and back off a little bit and just maintain the gap, and if the others catch up, he'll have the advantage.
Line Mitch up the inside there. So we're just right on board and have a look at that replay there.
Ross already looking for a way back through. They are side by side coming into turn 1.
So Ross was slow through the chicane, locked up a little bit the final turn, and Line Mitch sent it up the inside. So
Ross has backed out of it.
And that's going to give...
Probably wise,
but it's going to put him under attack from Gardner and Murrell, I would say.
Nah, just enough of a gap behind them. A few car lengths.
That's it. He's very quick. I had to cut you off. He's very quick through turn 2. He's side by side for a little bit with Mitch.
Well, they've closed up a lot on Foley there. He's seems to be driving very cautiously. He must just be looking at the standings and seeing where his championship rival is.
I think that weight is just killing him at the moment. He's probably driving at his absolute fastest, but just doesn't have...
I was just trying to talk him up a bit.
Well, still, it's a fair effort to be doing what he's doing at a circuit like this with 120 kilos on board. With he and Gardner, he's wide, and that's going to give Mitch... He's moved him up to P2, so Mitch has had a fantastic run. He's up 6 spots. In his first touring car race, he's up into P2. And he's got 4.3 seconds to Topher in front. So you see them go through the final chicane there.
This little pack has given us a lot of action. Oh, as Mitch is wide in the final corner.
Even though he ran wide, if you do run wide, you can get a bit of straight line speed down this straight. You see, you're on the throttle.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't have the weight that Foley does as well, so he's got all the advantages, even if he does make that mistake.
We did see on the previous lap, though, that Mitch was a little bit tentative through turn 2. He goes defensive, which is rather odd, and very slow. Holds Foley up a little bit, and that's got Ross right behind him. It's balked Foley. It's given Ross a chance to move up to P3. Has a look into turn 3. Not close enough and decides better of it. And now Gardner is right behind, as we see Morrill off on the grass there. And behind Morrill is Turmo in P7.
It's just helping Topher out massively. That gap is over 4 seconds now.
Mitch hasn't had a good first sector. He did make up 7 tenths on that last lap and had to get to 4 seconds, but this first sector he's dropped all that time again. He's got 5 tenths to Topher. So can he break away now from Foley? Looks like he has a little bit there in that middle sector.
Yeah, he's just eked out a couple car lengths as Ross is getting very busy behind Foley now.
Very easy to lose that chicane there, as you see. Oh, Reese Gardner went
wide again.
Murrell opportunistic up the inside. You don't want to go too wide there because it does open the door, as you see there, and Gardner's going to drop a spot to Gardner's going to drop a spot to Murrell. While you would think it would be better to go wider and tuck it in at that final corner, it actually isn't the optimal line. See, opens.
Ooh. Sorry, I saw Foley just having a little bit of a
Mitch
look.
is very slow in turn 2. It's balked Foley. It's balked Ross a little bit, but Ross is now side by side with Foley.
Now.
He should take that. Foley gives him the room, and Ross takes the position.
Oh, he's going back up the inside straight away. Foley is not thinking championship here. He just wants to get
a little bit of contact there. Now Morrell's right behind him. Yeah, so as you said, it's very good driving. But it's going to be argy. It might get a little bit argy-bargy here because they're all very, very close. So just right on board Reese Gardner. As we see, Foley run wide on the grass, and that's balked everybody
Ross
there.
Ross as well was a little bit wide there.
Oh, Ross is right. He's on the marbles there. That's going to cost him 2 spots, possibly 3.
Track.
And Turmo is going to go side by side with him into the chicane. and Ross has to back out of it. So that's a terrible mistake there. But that's what happens with a close battle pack.
All this has also allowed Mitch to get to 1.5 seconds ahead of this pack, and Topher is now leading from ahead of Foley by almost 6 seconds. Foley has had a very good final sector, or Topher's made a mistake as that gap has to come down.
Well, Mitch on that last lap, a 1 minute 30.6, Topher a 1:31.4. So brought the gap down on the previous.
Might just be backing out of it a little bit, Topher.
We do have traffic in between them, so possibly Aussie, a little bit of traffic, cost him a little bit of time.
Oz Rob, who obviously we haven't really mentioned anyone out of this pack because they've just been providing such good action, but Oz Rob, who I believe raced in the Rookie Cup last week, or the week before with a decent showing, he's currently 2 laps down in 14th place, so not quite the touring car debut he would have been after.
Was looking alright in practice but obviously once that added weight come on, it seemed to struggle a little bit. But to be 2 laps down, I'm going to have to guess that he's had a spin and not rejoin the track correctly. As we see Gardner go around the outside of Murrell into, I believe that is turn 6. Oh no, that is turn 10. So just look at that on replay. Side by side through turn 7, side by side through turn 8.
Bit of breathing room now for Foley. He's about 1.5 seconds ahead as I see Gardner go wide in the final corner, allowing Murrell and Ross back through.
So all that hard work. There he goes. We're just seeing on the replay there. Gardner finally got around him. And then we'll speed up. And there it is. Locked a brake. Very easy to do there coming out of the chicane. And he's going to drop back behind Turmo even, by the looks of it. No, Turmo backs out of it. So he only drops down to 6th. So
Topher, we've got to mention at the same time, he looks as though he's definitely backed out of it just a little bit here.
Any news on any tyre data down there from the pit lane, or?
Topher currently has on his front tyres 62% on the front left and 68% on the front right, whereas Mitch behind him has over 70% on the front right and 65% on the front left. So Topher has used a fair bit of tyre trying to get away from the field, as Foley behind Mitch is about the same wear as Mitch, and behind them it's all pretty consistent around 70 and 65%. So it looks like Topher has used a little bit more, not significantly more, but enough just to sort of suggest he does need to back off a bit.
So obviously Mitch, once he's got past that pack, he's obviously slowly caught up to Topher, but he has dropped off a little bit this lap. The gap's now 3.9. It was down to 3.4, I believe, at one stage. But he's got a bit of a gap over Foley, who has he's been, well, consistent and hasn't made as many mistakes as those behind him. So now he's got a little bit of a gap to those behind him. He's got 2 seconds over Scott Murrell now, so he's putting a little bit more time on him. And Murrell's finally cleared, obviously, Gardner and Ross. So it's sort of spread out a little bit.
Ross, we have seen, does have the pace, but he's also got Gardner with him, which, when you're trying to catch up to someone, is probably a hamper, as Ross isn't one known to like people getting through on him. So I'd imagine, unless there's a mistake ahead, that the top 4 could well be sorted out. So these guys do.
Murrell runs wide.
Defensive.
He locks up, and Gardner was.
Oh, Gardner off the track.
He was sort of stuck. I don't think he made a mistake there. We were on board with him. I don't think he made a mistake.
Murrell off again. Ross has gone off. These guys are pushing very hard here. Now, going back to Gardner's mistake, it looked like Ross was just defending a little bit into the previous corner, and Gardner had to try and have a look around the outside, and that's just put him on the dirty part of the track, and he's just put a wheel off, and the car just follows it.
He couldn't obviously stop and go up the inside with that added weight, and obviously he's already sort of committed to his line, so it sort of forced him off the road there. But I think, obviously, it just shows the class in driver with obviously Gardner and Foley remaining up there despite their weight, and their consistency is significantly better than obviously those around them. While those might be faster because of their less weight, see Foley and Gardner can keep it up there due to their obviously great racecraft and consistency.
Murrell is closing the gap on Foley there. It's down to 1.2 seconds. At the end of the second sector, it was 1.5. So interesting to see how this one plays out. Still with just under 5 minutes to go, plus one lap.
It was a scruffy lap from Murrell. We did see him run off the road, but see, still found a bit of time. Obviously, on that last lap, Foley did a 31.6, while Murrell managed a 30.8. So
another 2/10 taken out through the first sector. Murrell on Foley.
I think the problem for Foley now is that he hasn't got a battle pack to sort of defend him. When you are in that battle pack situation, you do have other drivers behind the one behind you trying to overtake the driver that's obviously behind that lead driver. So he hasn't got that to sort of protect him now. It should be easy pickings for Morrell if he can get close enough and doesn't make a mistake.
He's right up behind him now. There's probably only a couple of car lengths in it. No, I think the battle pack behind them slowing each other down was an advantage, but I also think having them spread out is an advantage because it means he won't fall into a pack if they start to get through him. So the risk is as minimal as it could be in this situation.
It minimises the risk, but it also makes it easier for someone coming up behind him to overtake. So, as
Roadhog down in 8th, though it is more of just a case of Foley now getting to the line.
See Turmo side by side with Gardner coming out of the final turn. Turmo should get that, I believe. Even though he's slightly behind him over the start-finish line, he should have the straight line speed as we see it now, but he lifts off into turn 1, thinks better of it. Someone listening obviously during the driver's briefing, which is good to see. And Roadhog, yeah, down in 8th, but he's still made up 3 spots. He was struggling badly early in the race, so...
Yeah, he dropped to 12th at one point. It just looks like the disconnections and a few mistakes have really helped him out to get back up into 8th.
His best being a 1 minute 30.6, so it's not too bad a lap time, but he's just not been consistent enough when it's mattered, because if he'd maintained those lap times, he'd be right behind, obviously, Turmo and Gardner, but...
oh, we've got, I think it was Brendan Ross off in the background, just one of those corners where we see them go off on every lap. He's wide again.
And that's got Gardner, he's got Gardner right behind him now. Gardner having a look, but that's probably going to compromise his line through turn 10. Yeah.
Just looking at the gap Topher currently has, he's got that gap back out to 5.5 seconds to Mitch behind him.
Yeah, so the last few laps have been really good from Topher. Mitch on that last lap of 32.0, so...
31.666 from Topher, which is one that Johnny would be very happy with, given that's his racing number, as he thinks he's cool.
The Antichrist himself.
I had to make fun of someone during the broadcast, or it just wouldn't be right.
Well, he did say he'd be here, but he's not here.
Yeah, he's opened himself up.
So he has, yes, as I said, he has opened himself up to ridicule.
It wouldn't be one of our commentaries if there wasn't a bit, would it?
Nah. And
just under a minute and a half to go now.
To go. Yep. But I hate to cut you off, but Lime Mitch has dropped a bit of pace, and Brenton Foley now, he's only 1.4 behind him. So
the Murrell all over the back of him though.
The Murrell's been
right underneath that rear wing.
And Foley a little bit wide there, and that's gonna.
He's got the inside line.
Always Murrell runs wide there. And Gardner has got past Ross. So we'll just go back, have a look. So down into turn 3 there. Ross has run wide again. Locked up.
Murrell's got Foley.
Indeed he has. As Murrell locks up. It's going to give Foley a chance, is it? Not quite.
No, I think that 120 kilos is pretty much ending this battle now for Foley, unless he has a fantastic final 2 laps of the race.
And we've got Ross and Gardner side by side out of the final turn down the pit straight, and Turmo's got a good slipstream on both of them. But so Ross moves up to P5, Gardner down to P6, but they're still side by side going into turn 2. Gardner doesn't want to give it up. But he has to relinquish P5, and Ross takes that position once again. And oh,
Clock
Morrill runs wide.
has
Morrill runs wide, and Foley's up to P3 again. So
gone down to 0 as well, so there'll be one more lap to go after this one.
this is the penultimate lap. Topher, we haven't shown much of him because he's done a fantastic job. So he goes around to lap Glenn Miles there. He's damaged forward focus, but yeah, Topher currently leads by 6 seconds. Haven't spoken much of him, but he's driven a fantastic race. Was mega in qualifying, so he's only got a lap and a sector to go. Mitch done a fantastic job to work his way up to P2. And Foley, another one, he's done a fantastic job to maintain that third position, despite having fast cars around him.
It sounds easy to say he's finishing where he started, but he's had a lot to do in this race. He's been probably looking in his mirrors more than anything. Mostly at a massive battle pack, and it's not all gone his way, but in the end, it looks like Murrell will have one more go, but currently being in front, Foley obviously does have the advantage. As Murrell goes to the inside...
he backs out of it. His best chance will be into turn 3 as Foley ran a little bit wide there. Will Murrell have a look as we ride on board?
I think the gap's just a little bit too big, yeah, a few car lengths between them.
Foley runs a little bit wider, but that'll give him a better line.
Might be thinking more of the run down here.
I think the next opportunity really for Morrill is going to be into the final turn now, because he's not quite close enough coming into, I believe this is turn 6.
That's the Farkenau Racing corner.
You say that for every corner.
Yes. Don't need to add anything more there. Live Mitch still about a second and a half
and
ahead
Gardner,
of these guys too.
Gardner's moved himself back up to P5, so he's got in front of Ross and...
Murrell and Foley side by side. Murrell on the outside here. Coming up to the final chicane. Looks like he's got him. He just needs to get the last quarter right.
Miles is off in the background. Foley's run wide, so Murrell's going to claim it. And we cut to Topher flashing his lights. He's claimed his first win and race 1 here, round 9 at Ibarra. So fantastic, a flawless race for Topher. He finishes P1. He's 5.2 seconds clear of Live Mitch. He did a fantastic job to come through the field to finish in P2. And we see Scott Morrill has parked his car just above the stand, or just in front of the stands there. That's a fair effort. He finishes in P3. Unfortunately, it didn't happen in the race. It happened after, as you see Brenton Foley, who finished in P4, going along the track on his roof there. He finished in P4. Fantastic effort from him. Champions drive. He'll be probably getting more weight after this. And Reece Gardner, again, fantastic effort for P5 for him. Ultra consistent. Just the weight costing him ultimate lap time. But still, great effort for P5. Brendan Ross, he'll be frustrated. He probably should have been on the podium with the pace that he's shown. But a couple of mistakes cost him, and he finished in P6. Turmo, he did a good job, even though he dropped 2 spots from where he started. Still, solid P7. Fastest lap of the race too, I believe, with a 29.9. Roadhog moved up a few spots. Decent fastest lap, just wasn't consistent enough, and obviously he dropped down early on in that race. River Whisper, P9 for the Candyman Racing. Brian Walsh, he's about to finish in P10, so top 10 from him, up 3 spots. Not bad for Team Walsh Motorsport. And we have Aussie lap down in 11th. Gary Neville in his dinged up Ford Focus finishing in 12th. Glenn Miles 13th. Ozrob 14th. I believe he must have cut the track a couple times or went off a couple times and cut the track. Not his doing, but that's just the track. He's 14th. And then the big dog having internet connection issues, I believe, and then Mike Coulston having an accident early on which put him out in P16. So we'll just take a short break, but we'll be back shortly. Hello and welcome back to Race 2, Round 9, the Automobilista Australia Touring Car Championship. So we're just about to get underway. Drivers are forming up onto the grid for Race 2, the reverse grid. So obviously in that last race we saw Foley extend his championship lead over Roadhog, who initially struggled but still brought home a solid, I believe, 7th or 8th place after obviously being as low as 12th early on in the running. So we're on the formation lap now, and we'll just run you through the grid. It is slightly inaccurate, as we did have Cracker join, and the batch didn't work correctly even when he was put in there. So he's in the midfield, but we'll go through the grid right now. So we've got Ozrob starting from pole position. Obviously, it looked alright in practice. Qualifying with the added weight wasn't quite as good as he hoped, and didn't have a good first race. But so he starts obviously first for this reverse grid. We've got Glenn Miles in P2, Gary Neville P3, Aussie P4. He looked like he struggled in race 1. Ryan Walsh, he took out a top 10, finishing 10th. He starts 5th. Got Roadhog in P6, so he'll be looking to move up early and then obviously stay in front of Brenton Foley if he can. He starts P6. We've got Cracker P7. Should be starting last, but the batch didn't work correctly. Obviously, must have been a typo on my behalf. And he starts 7th. We've got Turmo P8. Not far from where he finished in the first race, but he did have decent pace. Set the fastest lap too, I believe. He starts P8 for Castrol Racing. Brendan Ross, he should have been higher. A couple of mistakes cost him in race 1. He starts in P9. Reece Gardner, fright of his life, and did a very good job considering his weight. He starts P10. Brenton Foley, another one. Fantastic effort with that weight. Champions Drive, P11 for Farkinell Racing. Scott Morrill for Honda Sport, he starts P12. He should have been higher up, but mistakes cost him. Still got on the podium though. River Whisper in 13th. Topher 14th. The Big Dog in 15th. So grid slightly out a little bit. Must have missed a couple guys. And then Mike Coulston in 16th. So we've got not Brian Walsh. That was miles off the road there. Let's Rob. Glenn Miles just in the lead there, a bit naughty, but we're away and we're racing. A couple of drivers taken to the grass there at turn 1. Get the far angle shot there. No one off at the moment, which is good to see. A couple gone side by side through turn 2. And no incidents just yet. So got Ozrob in the lead. And Miles P2 at the moment. Roadhog up into P3. On a couple wide there in turn 2 there, or turn 3 I should say. Oh, he's got Brian Walsh out, breaks himself. He's off the road. And that'll drop him down the field. Got Aussie. Oh, as you see, Glenn Miles off the road. He's off in the boonies. Hopefully he rejoins safely. Thankfully people see him coming. So he drops down the field. So we go back up. And we've got Reece Gardner around the outside of Aussie. And he moves up to P3. He's had a fantastic start. And he's got Scott Morrill just behind him. And Foley and Ross trying to get past Gary Neville for P6. And now Aussie side by side with Neville. It's going side by side to the chicane doesn't generally work out too well. So Topher moves up a couple, gets past Ross there. And Topher up the inside of Foley at the final turn, so he's having a massive charge here on this first lap. Foley will have the slipstream, but Topher doesn't have the weight. And Foley looking to try and pass into turn 1 as well on Aussie into turn 1. Oh, as you see, Turbo on the curb there holds it. I mean, front wheel drive saved him there, I think. And now Ross gets the run on him, and he moves up to P9. So these guys shuffling around quite a bit on this first lap and a half. Obviously being a reverse grid rate. And oh, we've got Morrill side by side with, I don't know, a bit of contact in the turn 3 there. A bit naughty. Right, he gets the job done, but locks up, and that's going to give Gardner that position back, is it? Well, they're going to go side by side, and Morrill holds on for now. No, he doesn't. We'll see Gardner with the better drive, and Gardner P3. So at the front at the moment, Ozrob's got a 2.3 second lead over Roadhog, and Roadhog's got a 4 second gap over Gardner. So those two are gone. So this is good for the championship for Roadhog. Obviously, he struggled a bit in that first race early on, but his fastest lap wasn't too bad. So, as he gets it all over the curves there, wouldn't want to do that too often. So he'll be hoping to maintain where he is as Foley's dropped down the field. He's currently last, so something's happened to Foley. He's got Ross behind him here, so what has happened here? He's got Ross behind him. It's run a little bit wide. He's on the grass. Oh. And he's hit. Oh, he's just avoided the course car. And off in the boonies through the bush. And, well, that's lucky to avoid damage. Thankfully he did, but that is perfect for Roadhog. And Foley down to last place. And Foley... Sorry, Ozrob lost a little bit of time to Roadhog in that last lap. Or in this last sector, he's up to 10th. Now 1.9 seconds. And Gardner 4.2 behind Roadhog. And Morrill, he needs to get past him and not make a mistake. As you see, Neville and Topher battle it out. These guys, one of the races earlier on in the season that had a good solid battle. As Topher up the inside into turn 7, gets it done. So he's up to P5 now. He's having a solid night so far. He's 8.5 seconds off the lead, but he does have the pace. It would seem at the moment to close that down. The field is a little strung out at the moment. A couple fastest sectors to a few people at the moment. Scott Morrill fastest first sector. Gardner the fastest middle sector. Fastest lap, Roadhog, 30.7, 30.9 for our race leader. 30.3 for Morrill. So he's got the fastest lap now. And Gardner also did a 30.3. It was marginally slower than the car behind him. So Topher now, he's got 20 minutes, well, yeah, about 20 minutes to close down to the lead anyway. 8.8 seconds now. So I'll just go through the field. And Foley's moved himself, up past Aussie, who's made a mistake somewhere and is getting lapped. Past Glenn Miles, past Cracker, and he's having a look up the inside. I believe that's Aussie's Mitsubishi Lancer. Yes, because he's got Brian Walsh and River Whisper in front of him for track position as they're side by side there. River Whisper in the Candyman racing machine as Walsh runs wide there, and that's going to allow Foley to close right up on these two. Whisper trying to go up the inside, runs wide. It allows Walsh back through, but they're going to go side by side once again through turn 8 and turn 9. Whisper has the line, but that should compromise him for the next turn. And now Foley is right behind him, but he has to take avoiding action. He's off in the boonies. And, well, that's cost him more time, unfortunately. So he's having an absolute shocker run. He's got the decent speed in that thing, but just keeps getting caught up behind other people there. And Brian Walsh being a bit slower than what he'd normally expect to go through there has cost him time. To see a couple fastest laps from people there. Topher being the fastest, setting a 30.1. So he's cut the gap down to the leader to 7.9 seconds. As Morrill has a look up the inside of Gardner. These two were inseparable in race 1 and they're so far inseparable in race 2. And they've got Roadhog 3.8 in front of them, and Roadhog has brought the gap down to the leader. Obviously he was 6/10 faster than Ozrob on that last lap, so the gap between them now 9/10 of a second. So it's all starting to close up at the front now. This is what we want to see in these reverse races. Obviously, you want to see few new faces at the front, and then obviously those that were quick in the first race to fight their way through the field and to have it all close together. And it looks like that's happening so far with Roadhog doing a solid job out in front, but Roadhog, well, he was closing up as we see Gardner and Morrill side by side. Morrill taking that place. I think obviously poor middle sector from Roadhog. He's got 4/10 as Morrill locks up a bit, and but he still maintains P3. So Topher, he sets a 1 minute 30.6, is 5/10 faster than Gardner, and just a little bit slower than Morrill. He set a 1 minute 30.4, just shy of his fastest lap, and he was 1.1 faster than Roadhog and 9/10 faster than Ozrob, and that's got the gap down to the leader to 4.4 seconds now. We'll just go back through the field. Gary Neville doing a solid job. He's in P6 at the moment, reverse race. Obviously, he didn't have a very good run in the first race, but so far, nice and solid. He's doesn't look like there's any damage on the car, and he's running a very solid 6th place, and he's got Turmo right behind him. Turmo setting a 1 minute 30.4 in that last lap, a 10th off his fastest lap of the race, but still good pace nonetheless. And behind him, Mike Coulston up 8 spots from where he started. Obviously DNF the first race, and he's having a very solid run in 8th place. Behind him, the big dude. Here's why we tune in. The big dude. And he's got Brendan Ross behind him. He's gone backwards. He's made a mistake somewhere. He's got damage on the front left of that car. Must have happened a couple laps ago because obviously replay not picking it up. And Brian Walsh off the road, and that's allowed River Whisper and Foley, who were side by side, through. And Foley gets through. He's finally up to 11th, and he's got a decent sized 12-second gap to Ross in front of him, and 13.4 to Big Dog. As Morrill, he's flying a 129.8, and you've got to remember that the track right now is not as rubbered in as what it is in race 1, with obviously the weekend being set after race 1. So that is a very, very good lap time as Gardner hangs it out right out sideways, to quote Mark Scaife, and well, Gardner himself setting a good lap time, his personal best of 30.1, and they were a second faster than Roadhog, and almost 2 seconds faster than Ozrob. So that gap now has come right down. Morrill is only 2.3 off the lead and 1.7 behind Roadhog, as you can see on the top left-hand corner of your screen, with 15 minutes left. And then at the same time, you've got Topher, who's only a couple tenths slower than Gardner and Morrill. And then behind him, we've got Neville and Turmo side by side at the moment. Going through turn 9 and turn 10. Right on board Turmo. On the power nice and early. Decent exit there. Neville struggling a little bit. Goes defensive. You don't want to go side by side through here. Thinks better of it. Now you want to set up a good run down that straight. Both of them running wide. But, Neville onto the grass there. That will cost him that position. It's too long a straight for it not to. And there it is. Turmo takes that position. And in the background, we can see the big dog is being hunted down by Brendan Ross and Mike Coulston. I believe he's lost a position on that lap. Yep, set a poor middle sector, 57.4, which is about 5 seconds off the pace. As did Ross on that last lap. And Ross having a look into turn 2. The big dog doesn't fight it too hard, and Ross up to P8. And Foley, he's caught 3 seconds up on Coulston. So he's in with a chance to move up a couple spots. Oh, as you see, Turmo run wide. It's going to give Neville a good run going into turn 7. Leaves the door open and Neville takes it. And Turmo's going to have to get that position back now. I'm just going to cut to the lead as we see Ozrob was 2/10 of a second at the first split, and now it's obviously dropped out to a second, and Roadhog has got Scott Morrill right behind him. So Roadhog really needs to hold on here. if he can. He's got 12 minutes plus an extra lap. So Ozrob, Roadhog, Morrill, Gardner, and there's Topher. And further down the track, we'll see Gary Neville, Turmo, and there's Brendan Ross, Big Dog, and Mike Coulston off in the distance there. Morrill not having the best final sector there. Well, the timing stream does on the previous lap. Fastest of the front bunch by a couple tenths this time around. So he's got plenty of pace in that thing at the moment. Probably the favourite, barring if he doesn't make any mistakes, because he's certainly been much quicker than Ozrob and Roadhog the past few laps. But Roadhog, he's got to hold on as best he can for the championship. With Foley where he is, and where obviously Roadhog in P2, which is higher than where Foley finished, he will close obviously the gap up in the championship if he can stay where he is. But that's going to be tall order, with obviously Morrill looking much quicker, and obviously Gardner, Mr. Consistency, just behind him, and then obviously we've got Topher behind them. As Morrill having a look up the inside as both Ozrob and Roadhog ran wide, or took a different line through the final turn, and closed the gap right up between him and Gardner. And it might have even been a little bit of contact with Roadhog there, and that's dropped him time. He's now 1.1 behind after being, well, cigarette paper between them. And now we've got Roadhog putting pressure on Ozrob. Ozrob runs wide through turn 2, and that's going to give Roadhog the lead. Can he pull it up, or will Ozrob hold it around the outside? A little bit sideways from Roadhog, a little bit of contact. And, a little cheeky there from Ozrob going across the grass and keeping his foot in it. So he retains the lead. This front, and now they all close in once again, and this is allowing obviously Topher behind him to close right back up as well. As Ozrob goes defensive, Roadhog avoids, has to go a little bit wider. And that allows Morrill up the inside, but he's got the outside run now for turns 8 and 9. And he runs a bit wide. It's going to compromise his line, and now Gardner's having a look at him. So I do apologise for the drivers behind, but this battle for the lead, we can't take our eyes off it, because I know if we do, that's when there will be a change of the lead. So there it is. There is the top 5 right there. And Roadhog taking that wider line to that final turn, and it's cost him a position. And he's off into the grass even, so that's going to cost him, it's dropped him all the way back to 4th and maybe even 5th. So Topher's having a look, but Roadhog does have the slipstream to help him a little bit, but Topher thinks better of it in a turn 1. So we'll just have a look. So just got a little bit unsettled, and cost him a bit. I don't know if there was a nudge there. I'll just have a look. No nudge. Just got on the marbles there, and that cost him a bit. So now that's Morrill up to P2, Gardner P3, and Roadhog is now behind Gardner in P4. As Roadhog a bit wide there, and now Topher is right behind him. And then Gary Neville in P6. He's 10 seconds off that, and Turmo's made a mistake, and he's now 6 seconds behind Gary Neville. They were battling earlier, and Ross having a look up the inside into turn 4 or turn 5, and he gets it done. So Ross had a couple steady laps, and he's moved up now. So Turmo made a mistake somewhere. The last sector, I believe. Behind him, got Big Dog and Coulston battling it out. As Coulston, a bit of lag there. And the Big Dog holding on to P9. He's up 6 spots. He's having a solid run, as is Coulston. Both up 6 spots from the back there. See, both DNFing the first race. And Foley closing the gap, but he's still 7 seconds behind him. So it'd be, barring DNFs or a couple of massive mistakes, he's probably going to finish there. So Roadhog want to get a move on, but he's got Topher up his inside and past him. As Ozrob gets it wide, slides it out in turn 2. That's going to gift Scott Morrill the lead, but he's going to try and hold on around the outside through turn 3. Oh, bit of contact. Morrill keeps his foot in it. They both remain on the road, but Morrill's going to hold on to it into turn 5. And again, Osrob trying to hold on around the outside. He's got the inside for turn 6. But Morrill is too far ahead, and now that's balked Osrob, and that's brought Gardner into play. So he's up the inside into turn 7, and now he's on the marbles, and that's all over for Osrob. So he's lost the lead, led the first 12 laps, but couldn't quite hold on to the pace of Morrill and Gardner. Gardner having a fantastic run. Obviously, he's carrying 135 kilos here. So to hold on to Morrill in front of him, it's a fantastic effort, and he's been very clean but also decisive, moving his way through the field. As we see Topher lock up in the background, and then Roadhog again, he also locked up in the background. So Roadhog was looking before they all got together. He did close the gap up between he and Osrob, but once they did close up, it cost him. And you see Osrob and Gardner side by side. Gardner's going to try and hold on around the outside into turn 2 here. He has to lift. He still holds on around turn 2. That is a fair effort. And Osrob has to concede into turn 3. And despite that lock up now, and that's Topher right behind him. Morrill's got a 1.6 second gap now, so he probably should break away from Gardner a little bit. We see not carrying as much weight, with Morrill on 45 kilograms, with Gardner on 135. But obviously Gardner showing his class by pretty much being right behind him, or right with him, the entire length of both races so far. As you see Topher. Oh, as you see Gardner on the marbles there. It's a sideways. And that's going to gift P2. And they're going to go side by side in the final chicane. Gardner backs out of it. And it's going to put him under pressure from Topher. As Gardner gets very close to Osrob. He's got the better line out of that final turn, but the problem is he's got weight while Osrob is on 45, so he's got 90 more kilos than the car in front of him, and as you can see, despite the slipstream, it does not help at all. So it's a little bit defensive there. No need really to turn 2, and that's compromised him a little bit. Gardner's got an alright run, and Topher's got an alright run. Gardner shows his nose a little bit. Rob runs a little bit wide. But ultimately doesn't cost him there any wider, and he probably would end up on the marbles there. So a bit risky. He's held on for now. He's on defensive into turn 7 or turn 6. Now up to turn 7. Scott Morrill now 2.5 seconds in front of these guys, so he's edging away. As these guys duke it out for P2. Roadhog has dropped off a little bit. He's now a couple seconds behind that pack in front. And behind him, Gary Neville still having a good run. He's still currently in P6. He's got Brendan Ross 5 seconds behind him. And behind him, we've got Big Doug and Turmo and Mike Coulston all battling it out. Big Doug holding on. In fact, Big Doug moving up a spot. He's now up to 8th place. So he's had a good run here. And Mike Coulston is, as I say that, he makes a slight mistake, but Turmo makes a bigger mistake, and now Coulston takes P9. So now they're both up to up 7 spots. And Turmo has dropped 2, and now Foley. So he's closing that gap up. Foley, every position vital at the moment. Behind him, River Whisper, the Candyman Racing. Bit of a lonely race at the moment. He's in P12. Brian Walsh 13th, Aussie 14th, Glenn Miles and Cracker both out of the race. So Morrill in the lead. Topher has made his way up to P2. So what happened here? So Gardner's gone wide, Topher's gone on the inside, Ozrob ran very wide and there's a little bit of contact. So it's just Ozrob running wide there. Gardner trying a different line or perhaps unsettling it through the chicane as just go live now and Topher runs wide. He's all over on the grass. It's cost him some time, but he had a little bit of a lead over Gardner. So he should hold on to that position, but Topher does run wide. Looks like Merle did off in the distance there as well. And Roadhog's in fourth. What has happened to Ozrob? Ozrob's got damage. Ozrob has got damage, so we're just going to go back here and have a look. Travelling slowly. What has happened? It's like front left suspension or a front left puncture. We're just right on board. So it doesn't look like it was contact. He just lost the back end a little bit. Tried saving it, couldn't save it, got on the throttle, and there's that fence. Bang! Right into the fence. And, well, he's in the pits to try and repair that, but he was having a decent run, and that slight mistake has cost him. But that's good news for Foley. That's a free position for him, up to P10 now. And he's now right behind Turmo. He looks like he's got a bit of damage. I don't know if we saw that earlier, so it looks fairly new. And he's got Foley all over the back of him. In the rainbow coloured Chevrolet Cruze. Nice little spin on the obviously the stock livery. Good to see though, more custom livery. So obviously for those that do participate in this series or would like to participate in this series, obviously have a look on the race department forums for some obviously British touring car liveries that you can chuck on these things, or find someone or have a crack yourself if you do want to race and get a nice custom livery in either for this season or season 2. We'll be running the same cars around some of the same circuits, but obviously there will be some new ones and even some DLC tracks and British circuits on the calendar. So Gardner has found his way in front of Topher. So Topher was up to P2, but Gardner has found his way back up to P2. He's having a fantastic scrap. And he's had a fantastic race, really. To be where he is with that weight around this circuit is a fantastic effort. And time has ticked over. So this will be the penultimate lap. I'm just trying to find if Scott Morrill has won a race. I believe he has. I'm just trying to find, as it looks like Reece Gardner has cleared Topher, so Topher's made a mistake somewhere, and that's given Roadhog a decent run coming into the final turn. Well, Gardner runs wide at the final turn there. That's going to cost him a bit of time to Topher and Roadhog. This is the final lap, 18. Scott Morrill leads by 1.7 seconds over Gardner. So Gardner on that last lap must have had a track cut somewhere, because on now live timing, time did not appear. While on that last lap, Scott Morrill 1:31.6. The gap did come down, and it has come down in that first sector. It's now down to 1.5 seconds. So Reece Gardner 0.2 faster in that first sector. Perhaps Morrill taking a little bit easy. So about half the circuit remaining now. A little bit of a gap between them all now, but I think that gap's about a second now, so I reckon Gardner's closed up a little bit more now. Morrill probably taking a little bit easy, and Gardner pushing quite a bit. So coming up to the first, or the final sector line is around about here. 0.7 of a second, but this is the final part of the track, the final lap. Morrill locks up badly. Gardner closes up, but it's not going to be enough. So out of the final turn. And Scott Morrill crosses the start-finish line to take race 2, round 9, with Reece Gardner. It's partner in crime for both races, really. Inseparable, finishing a fantastic P2 with 135 kilos on board. Topher scything his way through the field to finish in 3rd place. A fantastic round for him, a 1st and a 3rd. Roadhog recovering well, obviously, in race 2 there, with Foley taking out P4 in the first race, and Roadhog, obviously, P4 in the second. Both finished 4th and 8th, so I don't think the championship standings really altered all that much, or at all, for that matter, so the gap should remain the same. So good damage limitation from Roadhog there, P4. Brendan Ross, again, he'll be a little bit frustrated. Could have been higher, but a couple of little mistakes costing him. He finished in P5 with, as you can see, a little bit of damage to the front left there. Gary Neville, good race from him. P6, probably a bit quiet. Probably wanted a little bit more to do, but that said, fantastic P6 for him, for Loose Sport Academy. Mike Coulston, P7. Both he and I'm trying to think who it was with. I believe it was the Big Dog. Both he and Big Dog were together for a lot of that race, although Big Dog in the standings has dropped down a bit. Both he and Big Dog up through the field, moved up a few spots. So Coulston P7. Brenton Foley, obviously had that issue, had a couple spins early on, or issues early on, and had to work his way back up to P8. Termo up and down in race 2, had a solid first race. He finished in P9 this time. The Big Dog up P5, but I believe he was up to P8 or even P7 at one stage, but obviously had a mistake off camera that we didn't see. He finished down in P10, but still up 5 from where he started. River Whisper in P11. Ozrob is leading a significant portion of this race, but obviously an incident at turn 3. He's lost the back end, and contact with the barrier ruined his chances of a podium finish. He's finished down in 12th. Brian Walsh has ended up on the side of the hill there, but he finished P13. Aussie P14, and Glenn Miles and Cracker, the 2 retirements. So, well, action-packed both races, you have to say. Obviously, first one, Topher had a bit of a gap, and the second one, well, it sort of closed right up at the end, but we have been joined. Obviously, we'll go to our race 1 winner in Topher. Obviously, great weekend for you. I believe your first ever win at Automobilista Australia in any series. Obviously, it was all kicked off by that fantastic lap in qualifying, and then a faultless run in race 1 there.
Yeah, thanks very much. It is my first win, and I surprised even myself with that lap. I'm actually looking forward to watching the replay and figuring out what I did, because I wasn't really able to replicate it later on. But the race went really well, and obviously it helps that some of the other fast guys are carrying a lot of weight. I should mention I'm not carrying any, so that does give me a bit of an edge. But having said that, I usually tend to out-psych myself when I'm in the lead, and I managed to get my head in the right place today and not ruin my own race, and came through for my first win. So very, very happy with that. And race 2, as you say, great battles towards the end, and I lost out and get back down into 3rd, but very, very happy, and certainly my best weekend of Automobilista.
Well, you sort of touched on it there yourself. Obviously, there's a couple times in the Rookie Cup in the inaugural season where you'd be in a position to win, but mistakes sort of cost you. This time out, it was obviously race 1, you were faultless, really. So you weren't on camera all that much in race 1, sorry to say. But in the second race, obviously, coming from the back of the pack, you had a fantastic first 2 laps, which sort of set that race up for you.
Happy with the first couple of laps, and props to all the guys keeping it really clean through the middle there. I apologise, I made a little bit of contact towards the end in that battle pack. Some of the guys ran a bit wide at the first hairpin, and I dived in, and I think there's a bit of sorry, the last hairpin, and I think there's a bit of contact on the way out, so I apologise for that. But overall, a really fantastic race, and just great fun to be battling. But some of the guys just had that little bit of extra speed when they needed it, and I think some of the guys have managed to look after their tyres in race 2 a little bit better. In race 1, I was able to protect the tyres and manage the gap a little bit and pull away towards the end. In race 2, I got the sense that I'd probably burnt my tyres a little bit more than the guys in front of me, and it actually ended up losing a bit of ground to them.
Well, we did have a bit of data in race 1, and we did have a look, and you did seem to wear your fronts out a little bit more than obviously those behind you. So perhaps obviously the one chink in your armour from this weekend is obviously you did wear your tyres out a little bit more, which probably did cost you a little bit in the second race, but still obviously you took out the first race, and then still P3 in race 2 is not too bad either.
I'll take a weekend like this, or a race weekend like this any day.
But yeah, well done, and hopefully we see a bit more of that in future rounds. And well, we've also been joined by our race 2 winner, Scott Murrell. Obviously, it's looking all right in practice, okay in qualifying. Race 1 could have been a little bit better, but a couple costly errors that they weren't massive errors, but ones that obviously dropped you down a couple spots, and obviously couldn't quite get far enough ahead to really challenge for the win in race 1, but still not too bad result in race 1. And then obviously in race 2, fought your way through the field magnificently to obviously take the race 2 victory.
Yeah, no, race 1 I really struggled. I set incorrect tyre pressures and just kept overheating them when I was pushing too hard. Took me a couple of laps to kind of cool myself down a bit and realised I need to keep those tyre temperatures down to keep it on the track. Had some brilliant battles along the way, and shout out to Southpaw Racer, who pretty much raced me side by side all weekend and had an absolute blast doing it.
Well, obviously we saw in race 1 you were inseparable, and then again, obviously both of you battled your way through the field together in race 2, and well, with minimal trading of paint, which is what we like to see.
Yeah, no, that's it. A couple of bumps here and there, but yeah, no, we both came out of it cleanly, which was really good, but it was fantastic battling throughout the whole field, even with everyone else.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the positives to take from this weekend. We saw some fantastic racing, particularly up the front. Obviously, the first 5 cars in both races, and we didn't see really any massive, obviously, swapping of paint or any incidents. So it was obviously a big plus to see from my point of view, and obviously from a racer's point of view, it's always good to know that you can race with someone. Obviously, you and Reese have been pretty much inseparable in every race you've had now. So it's good to know that you can obviously trust the person that you're racing with.
With a man of his skills, I have a lot of faith in him. I know generally if I'm beside him, he's not going to cut me off. And it's a lot of people in this series I can do that with, and just know that if I put my car up the inside or even around the outside of them, that they know I'm there and that they're not going to cut my nose off or vice versa.
That's it. So obviously, once again, congratulations. That was, I believe, your second win of the series. So that'll elevate you past Cracker in the standings, and possibly it should knock you past, obviously, former teammate Cameron Costa as well. So see a good weekend from you, and you'll be looking to try and challenge, obviously, Dwayne Davies once he returns in the championship for P3.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Lewis, and thanks to everyone else.
Alright, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on your race 2 victory.
Cheers.
Alright guys, so just try and go through the upcoming events for Automobilista Australia. I believe on Thursday we have the Porsche Cup from Alton Park. I'm not sure which layout, but I'm going to hazard a guess it is the long layout. And then obviously next Monday we have the Rookie Cup from Spielberg, or the Red Bull Ring, or A1 Ring. That will be on the national layout. Obviously it's cut in half. You don't do the right up to the top of the hill there. And that was on Monday. And then next Thursday, I am not too sure. It's not in the events calendar at the moment, so I couldn't quite tell you, but I know the next touring car round will be from Ribeiro Preto, which is another street circuit. It is a bit notorious, so that will be a very interesting and action-packed round. Oh, and I almost completely forgot, but on Sunday, yes, the Sunday event, this coming Sunday, is the Farmers 400. We see with all participants donating $10 to the farmers or the drought-stricken farmers relief, and that will be at this very circuit at Ibarra Raceway. In
Tell them who's commentating.
Yes, and obviously that is Scruff that has just returned. And so yeah, on Sunday is the Farmers 400 in a custom touring car mod. So we hope to see you obviously on Thursdays, or on Thursday for the Porsche Cup from Alton Park. Obviously Sunday, the Farmers 400, and on Monday for the Rookie Cup at Spielberg. So thanks for those that have tuned in, and we hope you have a good one.